Fit for Life Radio, episode number 142. Got your OG hosts here today. I'm Gary.
Will,
and we have special guest today with us is Mr. John Bundy.
Hey, what's happening?
What's up, John? And you are the host of Morning Fuel Podcast, right?
Morning Fuel Podcast, yeah.
how long you been doing that?
Since 2019.
Okay, damn.
Yeah.
How long have you been podcasting? 2019?
I mean, we had like a 1 year hiatus, and
So do you guys do the time out for 2020? 2020 time out?
Yeah,
Whoa.
yeah. Because remember, we started and we're like, we're gonna get consistent.
Yeah.
And we were, and then that came, and we had to close the gym. There's a bunch of
you're right.
So we stopped the rest of that year, and then started up in 2021, and we've been every week.
Like hit it hard. Yeah, we haven't missed a week since.
That's cool.
Since that happened.
Yeah, you guys are rocking them out, man. You've done more episodes than me. I do solely an interview style of podcast, and we take a break for the summer is what we're trying to do. So September we start recording again.
Yeah. I mean, for us, fitness, nutrition, there's tons of content, right?
It's just always going to be there.
But in general, interviews always do better. People like them better. At least they get more downloads and stuff like that.
Okay, cool.
So,
awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, what we'll be talking about here with John is actually not podcasts, but John, he works out of Gather here in Newport News, where we do some stuff. And yeah, we met, and he kind of started sharing his journey with his fitness and health and things like that. So yeah, we're going to dive in and talk about all things with that. So you kind of will really just start kind of with how you started with us. I think you mentioned, a little health scare you had or issue, and then just tell us a little about like, your bio, I guess, where
Sure.
where you're at in life and circumstances and everything.
Yeah, sure. Well, 2010, I don't know my age. I'm not good at math, but I'm not going to do that right now. But so in my 40s, I actually finished college. So I was going to Thomas Nelson. I had gone back after quitting and going away from school and got married, had kids, and then I was like, I need to go back and finish. So I actually went back and got my associate's degree in computer art and design at Thomas Nelson, Harvard by the Highway.
There you go.
And shortly after that, I found out that I had a brain tumor. I was doing P90X, and I was with a group, and I would get this excruciating headache at the end. And I was thinking at the time, I was like, okay, I'm just fat.
Yeah.
I'm just fat.
People get tension.
Yeah, tension headaches, and
it was terrible.
Or if you have high blood pressure,
Right, and it wouldn't go away. So I went to the doctor, and they did a X-ray, didn't see anything, and I kind of pressed them, and they did a CT scan, and they saw what they thought was a clot, and went in for MRI, and it was a tumor, and it was actually in the ventricles in the back of the head where the blood flows in and out of They said the surgeon said that if I didn't have it removed, it would have been lights out one day. I would just been like, that would have been it. So tough little story for my wife and I, of course, and it was one of those. In getting the diagnosis on a Tuesday and in surgery on a Thursday. That same week.
They didn't waste any time.
No,
that's good.
They didn't. So after that, I really started thinking about like, well, how did that get in there? How does that happen? They couldn't. They're like, well, we don't know exactly. But I'm like, must be something I'm putting in my body. So then I started really looking at what I'm eating, and I'd always kind of roller coastered with my weight. Growing up, always kind of a chubby kid, always had a lot around the middle. And so I kind of just started, and I need simple. So it was like, okay, cut out the bread, cut out the sugar. Don't drink any more sodas and stuff like that. So as soon as I did that, I lost like 20 pounds. And when I lost the weight, I felt better.
Yeah.
So I wanted to start working out, which I never really did consistently in the past. I'd done some jogging, never for a very long time, and I always hated it.
Yeah.
If ever I lifted any weights, it was because some buddies of mine were starting at a gym, and I would go for like a week and then stop.
Yeah. And this was in your 40s, you said?
When I had the tumor,
yeah.
But so that was So
how old are you now?
I'm going to be 51 in December.
Okay.
Yeah. So 43, I started working at NASA. Not a rocket scientist or anything like that. I did inspections on pressure systems and stuff like that. And they had a gym there, and I was going through some kind of tough stuff, like emotionally and like that. And I knew that working out, exercising was helping me out. I was doing some yoga at the time, And I was like, let me go to the gym at lunch. So every day I'd go to the gym. It was my favorite part of the day. I couldn't wait, after a while, because I started seeing gains. And I was thinking, I'm over 40. Everything I hear, you can't build muscle and all that kind of stuff. So I'm listening to the wrong people. And and then I started seeing, changes to my body, and it was kind of exciting.
It hooks you.
Yeah, it did. And now it's one of those things where if I go, I would say if I go 2 days without working out, I'm like, I really need to, work out.
I need to do something.
It's only because I've gotten busy and neglected it, not because I didn't want to work out, because I love it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So this was after the tumor?
Yeah, this was after the tumor. Yeah, so this was a few years after the tumor. And just started seeing improvements and worked my way past some injuries too. That was another thing too. So I don't know what particular exercise it was. I felt like I had some kind of impingement or something like that. But because of perhaps doing some bench presses or like incline press, I was getting some pain in my shoulder.
Were you using a barbell, like a barbell bench press?
Yes. Yeah.
More than likely it's probably that.
Yeah.
Right. And I was also recovering from kind of like a hunched kind of neck. So I've been trying to do all these straightening exercises and pull-ups, which I'd never – I did my first pull-up when I was in my 40s.
Yeah.
Which is rad, though. So, to be able to be in your 40s and like, damn, I'm rocking out.
I called my dad from the YMCA at the time, and I was like, Dad, guess what?
Yeah.
I did. He's like, okay.
Yeah. It's cool because we work, most of our clients are 40 and over, and we're not gym rats. We've had people like, Steve Clore, who in his 50s, he might even be his 60s now, but when he's
probably getting close, probably late 50s right now.
And he completely kind of transformed his body, and his wife's like, he's in better shape than when we got married, 30, 40 years ago.
We call him Mr. December.
Yeah, like GQ model,
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, people think, well, nowadays it's sad. People think at 30 they shut it down, right?
Yeah.
What's the point? So, but yeah, your body responds. How's your shoulder now? Like,
it's fantastic. Like, I worked my way past it. I did some other, exercises around that, and now it's stronger than ever.
Do you still do like a barbell bench press?
I don't. I'm using dumbbells.
I was just gonna say the simple fixes.
That's usually what we have people do.
Because with the barbell, you're fixed into this fixed position.
Right.
So then if your natural structure just doesn't happen to kind of, fit that, then it's very, very restrictive. And then you swap it out for dumbbells, and now you have freedom of motion at the shoulder and elbow and everything.
Yeah, so it's been cool. And seeing that now my 17-year-old over 2020, she was joining me in my workouts. And she's kind of a hard gainer. Like I can easily gain weight. I just have to look at some carbs and I gain weight. She can eat. She's one of those can eat whatever she wants and never gain a pound. But actually, she's starting to see her biceps build, and she's starting to see some definition from stuff like that. So she's excited too about it.
Yeah.
So
strength training's come a long way. Even just when I started 17 years ago, it was mostly like people who, if you want to like build a bunch of muscle and be, people with everything's extremes, right? So when people think of hear the word muscle or think of resistance or strength training, they think, oh, you must be Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? And the reality, so like if you're going to touch any of that, it's because you want to be this overly muscled cartoon character. And the reality is now, like, no, like it's good for maintaining muscle to building muscle and strength, right? And these are all things actually that are more important as we age, to prevent scarcopenia and things like that. So everyone should actually be resistance training. If you take all the forms of exercise, resistance training is probably one of the most important to do.
The older you get.
So people are kind of opening their eyes to that, but then that now brings in a lot of what you overcame, which is, going to a gym where the strength training equipment is available is intimidating. That environment's intimidating. Figuring out what to do is intimidating. Knowing if you're doing it right is intimidating. And so obviously with all that in the way, and then also the older we get in life, the more comfortable we get set in our ways, not as open-minded, not very growth mindset. So people just aren't going to do it, right? Which is sad. But now it's starting to become more popular with women, over the last 10, 15 years.
If there's one good thing CrossFit did, is it kind of shifted that mindset for like women to kind of focus on strength training and getting stronger and saying like, hey, this is cool to do. Like there's nothing wrong with it. And that's really gotten a lot of women into just lifting weights in general.
Yeah. So like how your daughter
Most
sees
definitely.
it, it's not even a second thought in her mind, whereas, not even that long ago, people be like, oh, that's going to make me manly.
Yeah,
or
I don't
that's
wanna
gonna
get bulky.
this or that. And they just go do the elliptical, right? So, it's awesome to see that change.
Absolutely. And then when you have family around you and you're not bugging them about it, but you're just doing it yourself, and they begin to see you change, like something I've noticed. This year, my wife and I will be married for 25 years.
Nice.
And yeah, amazing. And I'm noticing she's looking at me a little bit longer than she used to. And also I get she's not saying anything about it, but if we're next to each other, she's kind of like feeling the muscles that weren't there when I was younger kind of stuff. So it's fun. It's
cool.
It's really
and I think
cool
there is something to be said for like setting a good example, especially like for your kids or family members, because when you do something like, you start working out and you feel better and you're eating better, like you do kind of want to shout it from the rooftops. But, when you're just like pressuring people like, hey, you should work out, you should eat better, people aren't going to listen, especially like if it's your kids.
Sure.
Like the more you tell them, the less they're going to want to do so. But setting that example and just not pushing it and just kind of doing your thing, and people see the change in you, they're way more likely to join in, just like your daughter did.
It works. And my wife, since my journey started, she's gotten a gym membership, and she and her sister are going and working out and stuff like that. So it's cool to watch. And then you start seeing, like, we'll watch like American Ninja Warrior, and that's male and female a lot. So you're watching these athletes and stuff like that, and you start going, man. And there's some older people on there too. They'll talk about them too. This person's 60 or whatever, and it's like, wow, I can do that. So we're actually going to do some things that we hadn't done in a while, and one of them we're going to Puerto Rico for our anniversary in October. My sister lives down there, but it's a kind of a surfing destination, the part of the island that she lives on. I've never surfed before. So we're going to do some things like that, some physical things that we wouldn't have done,
which is cool,
when we were younger.
And that's why we do why you work out, so you can do things like surf in in your 50s and try new things and not feel like you can't do anything new ever again.
Yeah. It makes you more confident in your body and being physically capable,
Sure.
We had a client similar. She told us how she went on vacation and ended up trying all these things that she never would have done.
Right.
And that was like, we have a thing in our group for our members of the gym, like non-scale victories, NSVs. It's because you want to celebrate everything that this lifestyle kind of brings you. And so that's often a lot of times people end up being excited or stumble upon these kind of non-scale victories with things in their real everyday lives that kind of pop up.
Yeah, those are probably the most impactful things, is being able just to do something that maybe you've tried before and couldn't do, or you've always been scared to do, and then it kind of allowed you to do that.
Yeah. So did you also do you go to like the doctor and get any metrics like blood markers done or anything like that? Have you seen improvement?
Especially when I changed the way I ate. I wanted to see, because you hear some scary things, especially from the medical community, about adding fatty meat to your your diet and all that kind of stuff, and how your cholesterol is going to go up and how this and that. And I remember I got up to my heaviest was like 244 pounds, and I had gotten down to like 170.
Yeah, and just for reference, you're probably what, like 5'9", 5'8",
5'10".
5'10". Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, give him his inches, man.
So when I purposefully went and I asked them, I was like, can you check my cholesterol? Can you do all that stuff? And they did all that stuff, and everything was perfect. And this was after, I had stopped eating sugar, stopped eating bread. I was eating like, I would say like modified carnivore. And everything was perfect. And every time I go back to get blood work done, it's perfect.
Rock solid.
So yeah.
Yeah, we have a episode on, what was it, like the case for meat or something like that.
Yeah, it was a while ago. It was when we were back at the Ironclad studio.
Yeah, but anyways, so a lot of people, it's tough, right? Because the nutrition industry and all this stuff is really new, actually, So
Sure.
it's a combination of, like studies and research and anecdotal stuff
Yeah.
and just observational things. And, we're still learning a lot. But one thing I think we noticed, too, that people really struggle with separating is most of the known health benefits, like the macro big ones, like come from getting to a healthy body weight, right? So there's so much like food fear and stuff out there, but the reality is whatever diet can help get you to a healthy weight is going to have probably the most net positive health gains,
Sure.
because getting to that body weight and not having the excess body fat, changes our blood markers and things like
Right.
that, right? So it's very crazy and frustrating. What we'll see a lot of times is, so a lot of people will go vegan, right? And which you can make work, but there's certain things you have to do, and it takes effort, right?
Right.
But then people will hear like, oh, well, meat's bad, right? So then they'll cut out meat, but then just eat more Doritos because that fits
Sure.
like the vegan
plant-
diet.
the
But
plant-based
the reality
lifestyle.
is, if they would have left some protein in, animal protein, there's a lot of nutrition in that, right?
A
So
lot.
and if they don't like make up for that in other ways, their diet actually could become a net negative. And then if they're over consuming calories, they could just keep gaining weight
So
or
then
not
you're making it
losing
worse.
weight. So yeah, when you hear a lot of the fear mongering and physicians and doctors and stuff too, don't necessarily they take like one semester nutrition, right? So
Right.
I mean they want what's best for people, but there's just so much we're still learning. And for the most part, if people our general thing is in why too. I know a good amount of people who have had success with like carnivore type way of eating is, you're getting sufficient protein. And, if we see, and if you listen to a lot of our podcasts, we try to keep it simple and break it down and lower the fear and barrier to entry. And if people get sufficient protein, because then it comes back to that helps support lean muscle. There's lots of actually micronutrition in it. You're going to notice positives. So
Yeah, definitely, and we're each of us is like our own experiment, right?
Mm-hmm.
Find out what's best for you. I know there's not like a one size fits all. So I was listening to the hardcore carnivores, like just eat meat. You've got Dr. Ken Berry, who was for the longest time and got a lot of results on like a keto diet. That to me is too much counting and too much trying to figure out the differences and all that kind of stuff. So it didn't work for me, and I'm kind of like the all in. So when I listened to him, and he recently, just within the past, 3-4 years, himself has gone full carnivore along with Dr. Baker.
Yeah.
He's like pretty famous.
Yeah,
Sean Baker.
Yeah, Sean Baker. So I was listening to them, but then I also like to balance that with Dr. Saladino, who is doing like an animal-based, but he's doing the nose to tail, organs I haven't been able to get into yet. But he
It's
had
a tough barrier, man.
He added fruit. He added certain fruits and honey
Yep.
to his. And once I did that, my energy level came back, and I was like, okay. Because I've been doing carnivore for like a year, and I was like, man, the energy's not coming. I keep hearing it's gonna, it's gonna. But as soon as I added a little bit of fruit and honey back,
Started feeling a lot
fantastic.
better.
Yeah, just eat some blackberries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Add
Yeah.
that to the diet, and it's like crazy.
Yeah, when you're active, especially with resistance training, which is like an anaerobic activity, the body just prefers glucose, right? So it's just kind of working against that, and you have a little, and it can
go a long way.
super helpful.
Certainly.
So
Yeah.
and that's where ultimately, same thing, right? Like a lot of times vegan, carnivore, on those extreme ends, it's you will be missing out on things. And there's maybe ways around it, but it's a lot easier sometimes just to have a little more variety. So because things can be very complementary.
Sure.
So and if you really break down, if you kind of learn nutrition science and things like that, it's pretty. You'll see kind of how they work, right?
Right.
There's a popular thing I know that a lot of like carnivore people like to use to show the nutrient density of meat, but it also kind of shows to me the complementary nature. So they'll be like, look, it's like a list of like beef liver and then like muscle meat
Right.
and then blueberries and kale. And then it's like all these different vitamins and minerals, right? And like the obviously beef liver, super nutrient dense, and the meat, they do have kind of like more nutrition than the blueberries and kale. But if you also look, the stuff that the meat doesn't have,
Right.
the blueberries and kale do have, right? It's like, well, instead of just saying only eat these things, why not eat all four, right?
Well, and it is really depends on how you feel. Like so, when I add vegetables, back to my diet, it brings me back to the feelings I had before I went carnivore, and that is I'm always feeling bloated.
Yep.
It doesn't agree with my gut, and it didn't even before I went full carnivore. So it's kind of like, okay. So then you listen to guys like Saladino who kind of gets into the micro stuff, and he's talking about how, there are plant toxins. The plants want to survive. There are animals that were designed to eat those plants, like cows. They have 4 stomachs to be able, so it's kind of like, okay, well, I don't have 4 stomachs. I don't need to eat. I'll let my food process my vegetables.
Yeah.
So I let my, the food I'm consuming is, besides, I mean, think about, the dinosaurs, it's kind of like which ones were the last ones standing. They were the carnivores. Yeah. The vegetarians died first.
Yeah.
And carnivores ate the vegetarians.
One thing that I noticed across the years, and this is just more of a like N=1 for me, like I pushed, veggies pretty hard, like eating a lot of them, and I found like too much definitely does bother me, and I remember, just feeling off. I keep them in there, but it's more of like a minimum effective dose, and I would rather eat fruit. Like I'll eat some type of berry during the day. I usually have a banana of some kind, and then like whatever seasonal. Like right now, like we have peaches, so I'll eat some peaches.
Right.
When apples come out, like it's apple season, we'll get apples. So kind of just trying to
eat
what's
in season.
Yeah, eat
kind
seasonally.
Ancestral kind of appropriate.
Yeah.
And the thing with vegetables too is really, and a lot of times depending on how you cook or if you cook them can make a difference, right? So kale is something that if you are going to eat it, you should probably cook it well, right? And sometimes it will, a lot of those anti-nutrients then will kind of like
but eating it raw, man.
And it's funny because a lot of the foods that people are like, well, I eat these veggies raw, aren't even veggies. They're actually fruit, right? So things like tomatoes is actually a fruit.
Right.
Cucumbers, actually a fruit, right? So botanically, yes, like in fruit is kind of made to be eaten, like a plant that's how it spreads its seed. So it's like wants this to be eaten. So
and eaten when it's ripe as well.
Exactly.
There's some things in the skin of fruit that when it's when it's not ripe,
it'll get you
to keep the bugs away, right? And we've got bugs inside of us. We've got bacteria and stuff like that.
And even
messed up. From,
you could go even more on the evolutionary scale to where, so humans are more unique in the way we see color, So yes, in fruits, there'll be like, greenish, like take an apple, right, or something when it's not as ripe, and then all of a sudden it becomes bright red or whatnot. Right. So, but yeah, so and for people, I think most people we could take 100 people and it's like eat raw broccoli or well steamed broccoli, and people are going to find better digestion and feelings with the cooked,
Right.
So
absolutely.
So yeah, people
don't eat too much raw cauliflower.
Well, so I mean, and that's the same.
You'll offend people.
Yeah, it's the same family. It's the same thing with broccoli, cauliflower, kale. They're all
and cabbage too, right?
And cabbage, and
we know what happens when you eat too much cabbage.
So and then some people might eat a ton of veggies and feel great, So a lot of it too is your fiber intake. If you up your fiber intake a lot really fast, you're going to have digestive issues, right?
There's no doubt.
But yeah, it's people finding out. We've talked about it before. Both of us personally feel better with like
a little bit,
not a ton of fiber,
Right.
But yeah, so and again for you, finding. Which is what we want for every client is finding an approach that helps you have an appropriate body weight, and someone could listen to that and be like, I don't want to just eat this small amount of food, right? That may be unappealing. Well, cool. You'll want to kind of find your own way of eating. That's the whole real beauty of digging in and not just following some.
Yeah, something blindly. Like you kind of found your way through multiple things
and
you landed on something, after many years of doing it, and you're like, hey, I feel really good
and because
doing
you
this.
enjoy it, and then can connect things like feeling better and things like that, it becomes somewhat effortless.
If you know me, you know I'm always on the run, up early and home late, so having a 3-hour morning routine isn't really in the cards for me. What is in the cards is AG1. It's a fast way to get vitamins and minerals I need to perform. I first gave AG1 a try because I wanted a single solution that helps support my entire body by filling in nutrient gaps and simplifying my morning routine. Since drinking AG1 daily, I've always felt strong and energized and ready to attack the day. Not only does AG1 deliver my daily dose of vitamins, minerals, pre- and probiotics, and more, it's a powerful, healthy habit that's also powerfully simple. It's one scoop mixed in water once a day and every day. I know that AG1 is giving my body high-quality nutrition. Every batch of AG1 goes through a rigorous testing process, so you know that it's safe. And AG1 ingredients are sourced for absorption, potency, and nutrition density. AG1 is a supplement that I trust to provide the support my body needs daily, and that's why I'm excited to welcome them as a new partner. Here is your chance to start every day this season with a gift to yourself. Try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3K2 and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase exclusively at drinkag1.com/provengrit. That's drinkag1.com/provengrit. Check it out. If you know me, you know I'm always on the run, up early and home late, so having a 3-hour morning routine isn't really in the cards for me. What is in the cards is AG1. It's a fast way to get vitamins and minerals I need to perform. I first gave AG1 a try because I wanted a single solution that helps support my entire body by filling in nutrient gaps and simplifying my morning routine. Since drinking AG1 daily, I've always felt strong and energized and ready to attack the day. Not only does AG1 deliver my daily dose of vitamins, minerals, pre- and probiotics, and more, it's a powerful, healthy habit that's also powerfully simple. It's one scoop mixed in water once a day and every day. I know that AG1 is giving my body high-quality nutrition. Every batch of AG1 goes through a rigorous testing process, so you know that it's safe. And AG1 ingredients are sourced for absorption, potency, and nutrition density. AG1 is a supplement that I trust to provide the support my body needs daily, and that's why I'm excited to welcome them as a new partner. Here is your chance to start every day this season with a gift to yourself. Try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3K2 and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase exclusively at drinkag1.com/provengrit. That's drinkag1.com/provengrit. Check it out.
And then
Sure.
that's what everyone's
That's
after.
the magic right there.
You know?
Is like, hey, I can live with this and I love it, and
Right.
it helps me maintain where I want to be. Like, that's the dream really for nutrition. So
And so going back to so you did improve your nutrition, lost some body weight, and then saw those health markers improve, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now where are you? You said at your highest you're around like in the 240s,
Yeah.
which 5'10". That's over. It might even be obese.
It is. It was obese.
yeah.
One thing we talk about too is it's tough in nowadays because kind of 70% of the population is overweight or obese. So now it's the norm. So people see it, and back in 1960s, the average American male was 5'9", 160 pounds. The average American female was 5'5", 135, 140 pounds. Now the average American male is 5'9.5", so the height hasn't gone up 200 pounds.
Right.
And it's not muscle. And the average American female is 5'5", 165, 60 pounds.
Right.
So the average American female is now the same weight as what the average American male was
Right. In the 60s.
60 years ago. So the problem though is now and we'll have clients who say you're 5'9", 5'10", and a good weight's between 160, 175, 180, and they're like, oh, that's way too. I could never be like, and it's like
That was middle school.
yeah, the perception is so off, but the reality is that kind of is the healthy framework and BMI for like that height, right? And it's very hard for people to rationalize.
It's hard to conceptualize too, like what that is for some people.
Yeah.
I gotta remember, like, perfect example was one of our clients. who was getting leaner, and he came from probably being, I don't know, close to 200, Justin, and he was in like the 180s, and I remember he was like, well, how much do I need to weigh to get abs? And we told him, like, you need to be in the 160s, and he's what, like 6'1", probably 6
like
foot?
6 feet. Yeah.
So like he's a little bit above average, and just couldn't believe that he was going to have to be in the 160s as a 6 foot man. And then sure enough, gets into the 160s. He's shredded, feels good.
Yeah.
But it's just hard to imagine that.
Yeah. Also, too, you don't need abs to be like.
No, not at all.
He then had extra. He wanted to push it and go there, but for the most part, for guys around like 15% body fat's gonna be healthy, and that doesn't necessarily mean visible abs.
Yeah,
so.
abs don't necessarily.
I just want to be
health.
strong and flexible. Is kind of
where
and
I'm able.
Right
go
now,
surfing when you go to freaking Puerto Rico.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, I think what most people want. I know me as my goals going forward over the decades is you don't want your body to be like the cause for limitation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, you nailed it perfect. Being strong and flexible, strong and mobile. Yeah, like your body's not the limitation, right? So
absolutely.
That's and being pain free is nice too. So so for you, where are you at now?
Weight wise, I'm at 190, and that's definitely not my goal. So I'm wanting to get back down to the 170s again.
Yeah.
But I do notice this: I need to pay less attention to the scale and more attention to my belt.
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm seeing as I'm putting the belt on, and it's effortless to go to the next belt loop hole or whatever. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. It's like, oh wow, okay, I put the belt on and I didn't have to suck it in, kind of thing. This past holiday season, kind of just off the rails. So it was like, I can eat whatever I want, kind of thing.
Yeah.
That didn't work out. The weight came back quickly, but I knew how to get back to where I felt good, and I'm heading back there, and I'm also heading back there in an easier way. I did a lot of fasting, and I did a lot of extended fasting, and I need to be careful because the electrolytes go away if I'm just drinking bottled water and not eating anything.
Yeah.
So I mean, I've gone 21 days,
Yeah.
without eating, and it wasn't as hard as it sounds. Really, eventually you get to the point where you're not hungry anymore, and
that's also your body down regulating your metabolism, to kind of save itself. So
exactly.
it doesn't.
So everything
once you
goes
have
into that survival mode, and then so then when you start introducing sugar back into that system, the weight just comes back faster than you even lost it.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So I did get back up to like over 200,
and
now I'm back down to 190 again, and kind of now it's like, okay, I can work out harder, so I'm going to start doing that. And so adding that because I'm eating right. It's just I need to move more.
Yeah. And there's studies now coming out and kind of backing that up, and that's where you have to be careful with the extreme stuff, and some people too like to be pushed mentally. There's that, but so our body, what it does is when we push that extreme, maybe not eating for 21 days, and then eventually it thinks you're dying, even though you're not going to die. That you can go get food. That the body can survive this. Kind of our body would think, oh, I'm dying. So really, what's the solution to preventing death? It's like having more stored body fat. Right? Because that's really all stored body fat is stored energy to keep us alive during a famine. But our body wants to be like ultimate goal, keep us alive. So it does experience this like super drought, so to speak. Well, then it's gonna be like, you know what? I'm actually going to, it's going to raise your mental, stimulation. So it wants you to find calories, right?
Yeah.
So then you take something
and
like
it's going to pack them all.
Yeah, you
right
take
where we don't want it.
Yeah, you take something like sugar, which is very calorically dense, one of the most calorically dense things around. So it's going to then the brain will sense that, oh my gosh, this is amazing. It's going to, which drives you to then eat more, and then your body's like, okay, cool, let's pack this on so that we don't have to experience this again, and then we have these strong swings, right? So it's definitely tough, and that's too like a lot of ladies experience that because it's been kind of popular over the years, like the kind of like crash diets and stuff, where they don't eat and things like that, and then they gain it all back and they have more
vengeance.
It causes more binging ultimately. The reality is, in general, if someone does want to push that, we are more fans or something to look into is protein sparing modified fast. So it's basically where you would just eat super lean protein. So really only protein, because then at
Right.
least you're like,
Maintaining your muscle
maintaining
mass.
muscle mass, getting what you need for that. But your all your carbs, all your fats would be out. So you're gonna have drastic restriction with your energy nutrients, which then will
Right.
force your body to tap into fat. But there's still some comfort there of like getting protein. So, and if you read some like old books, there's pretty fascinating with like what's the book of Lois and Clark? I can't think of the name of it.
I know exactly what you're talking about, dude.
But it talks their story of going across the country, right?
Okay.
And there's one point where they're talking them. They have, I don't know, 9 guys they're with or whatever. And their job was they were sent to, explore the country and find the animals, like food, all that stuff, and name it. So like basically food and animals. We want to see what's on this country. But they would talk about how, at one point they were like, yeah, we're finding meat to eat, but that's all there is, and we're losing weight. But the animals were so lean, and they were eating like 7 to 8 pounds of meat.
Was that rabbit starvation?
So there's the
stuff?
thing the Indians called rabbit starvation, where if
Mm-hmm.
the animals were too lean, they would still like get sick or die. And ultimately, what it is people don't realize, a gram of protein is 4 calories, and you could have a whole rabbit, which is like, say the rabbit was 3 pounds of meat. So 3 pounds is 48 ounces, which is about
It's 12.
we'll just say about 300 grams of protein.
Yeah.
So that's only 1,200 calories,
Right.
So you could eat 3 pounds,
and then
1,200
think
calories.
about your energy expenditure when you're out looking for
Yeah.
food
Yeah,
and you're
sure.
walking. Like, that's not
chasing
a
that
lot.
rabbit.
Yeah,
so
1,200 is not a lot.
You're in easily at least 1,000 calorie deficit right there, right? So yeah, you're going to just keep losing weight, but a lot slower, and you're still maintaining your muscle. But ultimately, you need fats and carbs to do, things. But yeah, so anyways, kind of a tangent, but
Yeah, that whole Lewis and Clark thing is wild.
Yeah.
How much they were eating.
yeah, but those extremes, the body will adapt,
Yeah.
both ways.
Right.
So.
Yep.
But yeah, but the cool thing is, and this is what we try to get across to people, like, obviously that's not what you wanted to happen. You didn't
Right.
want to then have Chris, but you're in the game. You learned, you made a note,
Right.
and
And you pivoted and changed.
Right.
Yeah.
And understanding you can do that brings a freedom, because you can say, okay,
I can
going
miss
to
a
a
meal,
family
yeah.
reunion,
Yep.
I can, eat the meal and then get right back on to my,
Yeah.
Yeah,
training.
and not
stuff like
stress
that.
about
So,
it or worry,
Yeah.
because that's what happens a lot too when we're on something very strict. Isn't it just creates stress being in that environment of like, oh my God, what if I eat something?
And I hate,
then
I
you
hate
just
being
spiral.
that guy at the party, right? Oh yeah, I'm just eating,
Yeah.
eating, meat, and everyone's looking at you, and then everyone else around you is feeling guilty,
Yeah.
because they don't care about any of that stuff. But when they get around you, they're like, oh man,
Yep.
Welcome
I
to being
can't-
in the fitness industry.
yeah, I can't,
Yeah.
I can't let John see me eat this hamburger bun, or whatever.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah, people get weird
Yeah.
about stuff like that.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
it is nice to have that freedom though of knowing like, yeah, I can have this, and then my next day will be, a normal day for me, and I'll be fine.
Right.
Yeah. Well, we've talked about before on the little similar. When I came up, it was like, oh, we have this bodybuilding magazines. That was like the fitness industry. And
Yeah, that was it. That's where you learned.
back then, it was like you have to eat three or small meals every 3 hours. And
Right.
if you miss like the 3 hours, you don't have a meal. You're gonna lose your muscle.
You're gonna be
lose your gain.
catabolic.
So you almost have. I mean, I don't like to use the word like eating disorder lightly, but in a way, like you create
It's a
this
disordered eating
unhealthy
pattern. Yeah.
eating pattern where I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to. So I could be out hanging out, and if I can't have my little protein meal, like you freak out, right? And then eventually intermittent fasting came, more of like the 16-8, and got into that a little bit, and it ended up having its cons for me, and I prefer not to do it. Super valid approach, works for a lot of people. We put clients on it, but anyways, what it did teach me was, when I did it for a while, so not eating breakfast, not eating every 3 hours, nothing, my muscle didn't
You're fine.
shrink away, right? All this.
Yeah.
So it gave me, like the word you just used, more freedom to be like, oh yeah, it's not that big of a deal. Or if I'm out traveling and hanging out with other people, like I don't have to sit here and now I'm stressed because I haven't eaten in 3. I could go a whole day or whatever. So like sometimes pushing those limits and boundaries and having some negative things happen, but then learning from them really help.
Those are great learning opportunities.
Help you mold, what you enjoy the most and works best. So
Yeah, I do like that about people trying multiple approaches. Like, it is good to experiment yourself and see, the pros and cons of an approach and what you can take from it. And that's really ultimately all it is, and crafting something for yourself.
Yeah. So what have you found? So for you, like, yeah, like you said, we have seasonal things, but yeah, you are in a much healthier place. You have this lifestyle. It's something that you do because you want to. So yeah, what's kind of your, framework right now? Like, how often do you work out? Like, what's your, what do you typically eat in a day? What's that look like?
Right. So typical day for me would be pretty much. I'm an early riser. I worked at the shipyard for a while. Had to get up at 3:30 every morning,
so that's
it
just
kind of broke me. So, but I'm up early, which is great because then I get the time to to meditate, to pray. I do yoga in the morning, and three days a week, along with the yoga, I'll do some high intensity interval with the dumbbells and body weight exercises, and also pull-ups. I've got a little rack out in the garage, but so that, and then eating normally, I'll have a cup of coffee in the morning. No sugar, no cream.
Just take it black.
Yeah. I was doing that bulletproof for a while, and I felt good on that, but I just didn't want to take. I just don't want to have those calories in the morning because I do gain weight rather easily. But my typical day would be the coffee in the morning. I will normally skip lunch. Lately, I've been adding, just a little container of blackberries. I'll just go to Whole Foods and pick one of those up. But most of the time, I'm not eating lunch, and then dinner is a big fatty ribeye. Nice. And water's my beverage. I do enjoy beer. I try and only do that maybe once a week. So that.
Yeah,
that's pretty much it. If I do have a hard workout day, sometimes I will eat breakfast, and I'll have like 3 eggs and like a half pound of bacon.
Yeah.
But that's pretty much it. And I'm looking for the bacon that doesn't have any sugar in it. They're sneaky with the meat, man. Yeah. Sausage. If you don't look on the package, like the second or third ingredient is sugar.
Yeah, most of those like processed type meats are going to have some bit of sugar in them.
Yeah. So I go to Whole Foods and I pick up a pork belly and I cut my own bacon. So stuff like that. It doesn't have anything in it at all except pig.
Yep. So I like it.
Yeah.
How big of a ribeye do you normally eat? Pounder?
Sometimes I'll have 2, but a pound or 2. I know I like being full, So I mean, I'm only eating one meal a day. I'm gonna get stuffed. Yeah. So it's pretty much that's it, and it's delicious. I thought maybe I'd get tired of it. I could eat a ribeye every night.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how both of us probably feel. Like we both eat beef pretty regularly, at least generally, depending on. It has gotten expensive, but still, like I could probably eat it every day.
Costco, and we cut our own.
Do you? Yeah, that's a smart way. If you eat a lot of it, that is a decent way to do it.
I want to find a somebody local that I can actually maybe get like a, half a cow, quarter of a cow or something like that.
There's a couple places. I mean, there are farms out in like Suffolk and
I
things.
I gotta Google find somebody.
They do cow shares.
Yeah.
So I did it once before because, the hang-ups, you got to have like the refrigerator space, right?
Yeah,
but there's
so we've got a small chest freezer, so I have to figure out what can fit in there.
Yeah, so finding that out. And then there's we did one time where you got to pay, and then they would deliver it weekly. So I'd like CNU, they had a drop-off point.
Right.
Christopher Newport University.
So that's a little more bearable than.
But then honestly, you pay all this up front. You kind of counting on this, working it in about how much you eat or need. And then sometimes they would have little hang-ups because they were coming from somewhere outside of Richmond. And then they wouldn't be able to make it that week. And then it's like, kind of throws you off. So, but yeah, there's a lot of options now with like cow shares and even like the milk share, where you can get the raw milk and everything
for animal use. Yeah.
But yeah. So, and then you work out at home. You have like your own home gym and things like that. What you got? Just like some dumbbells?
I've got dumbbells and the rack where I can actually do some dips and pull-ups.
Oh, nice.
Like that kind of. We get creative sometimes with the exercises. Trying to figure out a different way to use this. Or whatever. Squat presses with the dumbbells. So being in that position all the way down full and then back up and
so like a thruster.
Yeah.
I love those, man. That makes me feel like super.
And when you have like minimal equipment, like you do have to, like you'd have to be a little bit creative with the way you use things and maybe combine things. So
and then just being active more too. So I love to run, and so got my daughter into that. Now she kicks my butt. So, she's 17,
Naturally, yeah.
long legs.
Yeah.
And so we'll go to local a trail through the woods, like a BMX trail, and run that. So up and down and just turns and turns and turns
fun.
through the woods.
Yeah.
Love it. Done by the end of that.
Yeah.
We've got a terrain run on Saturday.
Oh, do you?
In Virginia Beach. There's it's called Terrain Run, I think.
We
And-
did
It's
that
like a whole
year-
circuit.
We did that years ago. I don't know if you were here when we did
Yeah.
that.
Like they do it in different places, right?
Yeah, the first one I did was a couple of years. It was before the pandemic in Richmond. They had it up there. It was a lot of fun, and my daughter's was when I asked her if she wanted to do it, she's like, yeah, so we're
Yep.
gonna go do
yeah,
that.
those are always a good time.
We would used to do the
We did the Rugged Maniac.
Rugged Maniac
Okay.
every year.
Yeah, I haven't
Yeah.
done that yet.
Yeah, it's a good time.
I kind of want to do. I got this in my mind just because it sounds cool, but the Spartan Run.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so
Wanna
that
do
was
one
like
of
the
those.
OG. We
Right.
know it's that's a tough one. So
And they have different like levels of it
Yeah.
too now.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
yeah,
I
they
was-
used to
yeah,
not
just
break it
wanna
up.
go.
It used to be so they have all their obstacles, and if you did not do the obstacle, you had to do, or you failed it, you'd have to do 30 burpees,
Oh, wow.
right? But then now you're talking, say, as a 12-mile race with 20 obstacles.
Yeah, I'm talking like the 5K version.
Yeah, they have
Yeah.
the sprint. They have the
The
Spartan
3
sprints these
mile.
days.
Yeah, I mean, I did the math one time. I was like, man, if you
If you can't do any of this,
you're gonna end. That's a lot of burpees.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But yeah, the sprint versions are always a good.
The
in-
terrain
intro.
runs the light, the Spartan light.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's still gonna be fun.
And then they have like what's the other big one? A lot of them fell apart because of
Tough Mudder?
COVID. The Tough Mudder, that was another
You know
one,
what?
yeah.
You don't hear much about that. I don't even know if
Yeah.
that's still a thing because Spartan kind of took over with like
Mhm.
they have like big competitions and it's a whole big thing still. But Tough Mudder doesn't seem
Yeah.
to. I don't know if it exists. COVID really
don't
put
know.
a damper on all of that.
Yeah, this run actually was supposed to be beginning of this year in Richmond, but they sent us an email saying that for unforeseen circumstances we'll have to postpone or whatever. So we transferred our
To the
tickets to
Virginia Beach.
At least you could
yeah.
do that, I guess.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, but yeah, it's always inspiring to talk. Like I said, a lot of people who they're like, oh, if I haven't been working out since I was 20, what's the point, right?
Sure.
And
I could have went that way
yeah,
easily.
I don't
Yeah.
care about my biceps now, right? Well, there's plenty more reasons to work out than
Yes.
aesthetics.
Yes.
And
It's a good byproduct, but
And you mentioned it earlier, though, the resistance training as we get older, I think, is very,
yeah.
very important.
Well, two things are fine in the resistance training, and then also like protein needs actually probably increase as we age because our body becomes less efficient. So we need to kind of eat more to get the absorption that we need.
and I'm cool with that. I love
Yeah.
it.
yeah, I don't think you'll have a problem with that.
Tomahawk.
Yeah. So it's habits that are very helpful to have instilled because ultimately, as we age and scarcopenia, so muscle loss, and then also bone loss comes along with that, and then you fall and break something, and you're
Right.
out of commission,
Yeah,
right?
that's-
So it's
that's
about preventing those things, and like you are proof of, just because like you turn 36 years old doesn't mean your body stops like being able to make muscle,
No.
right?
Right.
It may not be able to do it as efficient or well as when you're in your 20s and your testosterone's at its peak, but your body responds to what you're asking it to do. You're asking it to pick up weights and you're applying this tension. It's going to respond, and you're giving it the materials, protein things like that. Then it's going to respond. And anyone can do it, right? The real true reality is, which as you've learned, is the key is you have to avoid the catastrophic stuff, like injuries and things like that, right? So it's navigating that, not doing too much harm, and so that one can then be consistent, right? Because like you mentioned, you dabbled before for like a week at a time, but
Right.
nothing stuck, right? And then when you kind of had this major life event, which unfortunately for most men,
It seems to be what does it.
that's what it takes. Like,
Right.
women will pay attention and try and put more effort into these things, especially when they're younger. It's like every guy we see, it's always like, oh, I had a heart attack, or like my dad had a heart attack. And that's what it takes to get them in. But
Yeah.
but even then, a lot of people have those, and then they're like,
Man, whatever.
hang up, right? So
Sure.
to then go and be like, man, what can I do to prevent this?
Kind of really depends too on who you hang around, right? I mean,
Yeah.
if you have
I mean,
hang
yeah.
around people that are positive, they're encouraging you, and like that, or you see somebody that, oh wow, they did it. I can do that. I can do it.
That's a lot of
Yeah.
what it is seeing somebody like you
Yeah.
that has done this. I think is very impactful for people.
Yeah.
So it's one of the positive things about social media. Then when you're
is.
scrolling and you're looking for those things anyway, so you get more
Yeah.
pop up in your feed, and you see some guy that's like 75 that's ripped, and you're like, if he can do that, I can do that
Yeah.
too.
I've always
You know,
found,
so-
Mark Sisson.
Yes, that guy, man. I mean, he looks like an old dude.
Yeah.
But then you see him from the neck down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Who's
he's
that
doing
30-year-old
great.
or whatever,
Yeah,
right?
I'm like, man,
So-
that's how I want to be when I'm 65.
Yeah,
so.
and he's just thriving
Yeah.
and killing the game.
There's
so.
another guy, I can't remember what his name is, but he's big into the like abs after 50, abs after 40 or whatever. And he's another guy that's like in his 60s, but
Yeah.
his body
Just
looks
looks
like
phenomenal.
Yeah. So did you grow your beard after you started working out?
No, man,
That's always been there?
I did
Yeah.
that on and off for years, and finally, it really was the like a local barber. I'm like, wow, there's an old school barber. Do you do beards? Oh, okay, cool. Now I can grow one and not have to worry about looking like a homeless guy. So,
Do you go to the proper?
I do now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I found the proper online because really it was tough to get a haircut during the
Yes.
pandemic.
Yeah.
So when I'm like, holy crap, I got to cut this myself. I've let it go too long, and I'm afraid to do it. You
Yeah.
know,
Yep.
so it was one of those where, and then when the barbers came back from the pandemic, their schedule was different. So I could never get on with the, I mean, she cut great hair, but I could never get an appointment with her.
Yeah.
And finally, I was like, forget it. The proper man, the
Hook you up.
proper. The amount of barbers they have there, they're all, the scheduling's online. If you
Yeah.
can't find a time, it's your fault.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out to the proper barbershop
proper
in
barbershop.
Newport News,
Absolutely, yeah.
who
Yeah.
takes care of all three of us clearly.
Yes.
Will
yeah.
used to have a beard like that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
About that length, yeah.
What
And then
happened?
I got sick of getting food in it.
Oh man, that's the fun part.
Nah. This is I usually keep it shorter than this, kind of like close to the face, so it's
Right.
grown out a little bit, but I had it for years
I
and
don't
like it
mind
was
the beard.
fun. And you know what? I'm not going to say I'll never grow it again, but I kind of like keeping it short right now. It's nice. So, I haven't shaved my face in like it's 2022, probably close to 10
part
years.
of the reason why I grew it in the first place was I hate shaving, and I would always get cuts.
Yes,
and
I mean I always
so
just
now
get
I just
bad
get a
irritation.
razor right here. I have one little razor that I just kind of
Same blade that you had.
Maintenance.
yeah,
Yeah.
for a long time.
Yeah.
Very long time.
I
I don't
also-
even wet it. I don't even use shaving cream. It's just
I look like a little boy without facial hair, so
my chin is very soft. I can't.
same. I got a
not
soft
grow
chin
that.
too. When I finally like shaved my beard off, my now fiance was like, "Where'd your face go?" And I was like, "Cause you'd never seen me without like a long beard."
Right.
And I was like, "Well, this is what it looks like." So,
You shave right before the wedding, and she just
That would
doesn't.
be awful.
and she's like, "Nah, no, I can't do
Who's
it."
this guy?
Yeah. Oh, well, and so tell us a little more too, John, about your podcast and
Yeah,
kind of how
yeah.
what you do with that.
Okay, cool. Yeah. In a nutshell, 2019, my daughter came to me, said she wanted to be a YouTuber, and she's 14 at the time, and
Sweet.
I'm like, heck no. I'm like, no way. You're a teenage girl. You're not gonna. But I thought, okay, this is something we could do together, and I've always kind of been on the side, graphic designer, into video and stuff like that. So we started her Kimberly Faith TV, and she was just ministering to her girls her age, talking about things that girls are going through and stuff like that. And so I'm the director, producer, camera guy, editor, all that stuff, helping her out. And then we saw a need in the business community for video, and then my wife finally convinced me that I needed to do a podcast. And she was joking. She's great. Well, I hope she was joking. She said I had a face for radio.
Yeah.
So,
Look,
so I
you
was
know what?
like-
We'll go with you have the voice for
The
You
voice.
do have
So
the
the
voice
voice-
for radio.
Well, I was told for the longest time I needed to do something with it, but I could never get in at a radio station. And I did
Yeah.
some voiceover, but it never really panned out. There's a lot of people out there that have great voices, so there's a ton of voiceover actors out there and stuff. But when I found out I could have my own radio station, get out of town, man. So I started interviewing small business owners and talking about why they do what they do, their morning fuel, what gets them up in the morning. So we're still doing that. We're in our third season now. And it's getting better. Like first season, we just would stick the iPhone in the center of the table, and that was
Hey
our
man, but you
recording.
started and you did it.
Yeah.
Like that's
Yeah,
That's the big thing.
And now we're incorporating video, and the video is going to get better this season. Last season, it was just kind of like the camera from the iPad, and it was bad lighting and all that stuff. So we're getting better at what we do, and now we're also incorporating into that helping. It's kind of like along the lines of what can we do well, and what's a need that business owners have, and social media is a big deal, especially with video. So collecting video, custom video content, editing it, and posting it for small businesses is what we specialize in.
That's sick.
It's
Yeah.
it's basically a full-time job almost.
Yeah.
That's basically what
It
I do
is.
for my business, and luckily
Right.
they run the gym. You got to build it out, but yeah, I always tell people it's, a lot of businesses would be, adverse to doing it. And, that would be like 30 years ago saying you don't want to be in the phone book,
Sure.
You just have to do it. You have to have that presence. So.
And it's even scarier now because of the swiftness that
everything
things are
changes.
changing.
And you got to be on it.
Right. So,
Even now, and I catch myself, you have to stay open-minded and growth-minded because I'll get used to where, cool, yeah, we're able to post these pictures and this, and it flows and it works and it becomes easier. But then all of a sudden it's like reels, right? Everything, or does
everything's video-based.
Vertical video, and I'm like, man, I don't want to mess with this. Avoid it, tick, and go to make a video and you're like, this is too overwhelming. But I'm like, I can't enter that mindset, So then you learn.
You're gonna fall very far behind.
Yeah.
And you have to just keep
Look,
up with
what I'm saying lately is record video.
Mm-hmm.
Record, just do it all the time. If you don't like it, you don't have to broadcast it. But if you don't record it, you're not going to have it to use.
That's a very
it's
way to
it's
look
kind
at
of like you have your own library then. And then when you get brave, you can go, you know what, this is good information. I didn't really look the best or whatever, but I'm going to put it out there anyway. Then you have this whole library of stuff, and then next thing you know, you've got hundreds of days worth of content. That we need today. So.
Yep. Awesome. So if you want to listen to John's podcast, it's
Morning Fuel podcast. Yeah.
And it's the same thing, Spotify. If you're listening to ours, then I know you know how to find it. So.
Yeah. You just look up Morning Fuel podcast, and so
check it out. I'm gonna check it out too.
Yeah.
Well, you can go through the first season, see how horrible it was, and the second season how
the evolution of the podcast
improved a little bit, and then this third season starts recording in September.
Nice.
So we've already got the calendar booked for September. So
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you coming on and sharing your story.
Thanks for having me.
Always,
fun.
tough to be a little vulnerable and talk about some of those
sure.
things.
Well, so. I haven't had the opportunity to be on somebody else's podcast in quite a few.
Well, I'm glad we could put you on the other side of it.
Yeah, I love
cool.
it.
Yeah.
I love not having to prepare for it.
Yeah. Nice. Awesome. Well,
cool.
Thank you for listening, and we'll be back next week.
We'll catch you next time. As always, thanks for listening, guys. If you want to learn more, check us out at coastalfitnessva.com or garydeagle.com. We'll see you next time.